All right, we're starting off this week by celebrating something we would quite literally not be here without, our planet Earth, of course, and the world is observing Earth Day today for the 55th time.
Now, this is a movement that actually originated in the United States, and it was inspired by the student anti-war movement of the late 60s. You actually had, Sonal, I thought this number was amazing, 20 million Americans that were 10% of their whole population at the time come out on the streets and protest and demonstrate for planet Earth.
So we thought today is a good day to check in on our planet and understand its health. But Toya, do you remember those dramatic visuals of Dubai that were totally submerged? We saw just in few days the hours of rainfall it got, which was worth almost months and years.
Right, you're right. I think I read somewhere that it was like 75 years worth of rain in one go.
Well, why exactly did that happen? What's the science really there? So we spoke with Srishti to try and do a deep dive. Here's what she found.
Okay, we'll play that out for our audiences, but first let's go over very quickly to understand more from Srishti right now. Srishti, how indicative is the Dubai incident? So everything we saw happening in Dubai, how indicative is it of what could happen around the world?
What is happening in Dubai currently is happening across the world. It's just an example of how climate change can intensify across countries. The kind of devastating floods that we have seen there have been happening across India. If you remember, last year during the southwest monsoon season, the 4-month monsoon season, we saw disastrous floods happening in Himachal Pradesh as well as Uttarakhand. And to an extent that Punjab and Haryana also declared floods after a very, very long time. In fact, scientists have been raising an alarm that the intensity of extreme weather events have been increasing, not just in terms of frequency, but also the duration. If you remember, the heat waves are also getting longer and they are lasting over, and they're covering a larger part of the country, and rainfall is happening on a fewer days. But what is interesting is that this rainfall is happening on a fewer days, but the amount of rainfall is increasing also in terms of the quantum of rainfall that is happening.
Okay, Srishti, I believe you also brought our audiences a breakdown earlier of exactly what led to this incident happening. So why did the Dubai incident happen? You've just given us the global context there, the fact that these are repeating patterns. But why did the Dubai incident happen in the first place? Let's just take a look.
The record-breaking rainfall in Dubai this week has left the world puzzled. Situated right in the Arabian desert, this city known for its soaring skyscrapers and opulent infrastructure has been brought to its knees by the torrential rainfall and the subsequent floods. Now, according to the weather department, this was caused by a high-intensity storm originating from the Mediterranean Sea. So we spoke to a lot of scientists and meteorologists to understand what led to this high-intensity storm. Now, according to Dr. K.J. Ramesh, he is the former Director General of the India Meteorological Department. He says that there was a mid-latitude westerly trough which extended unusually southwards, impacting the UAE, and that is why we see extended amount of rainfall. He says that such kind of storms usually originate from the Mediterranean Sea, travel eastwards, impacting the northern parts of Pakistan, Afghanistan, and then Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. But this time, as we say, that it extended unusually southwards. In addition to this, it also picked up moisture from the Arabian Sea, and that is why we see rainfall happening over Bahrain as well as Qatar. Dr. K.J. Ramesh points out that this is not just a one-off event. In fact, global warming is making these extreme rainfall events increase in intensity and frequency across the world. Now, the rising amount of greenhouse gas emissions that we have pumped into the atmosphere for these many years has made the world 1.1 degree warmer. We are talking about climate change, we are talking about global warming, which has made these extreme weather events, especially short bursts of rainfall, much more intense and frequent across the world. Dr. K.J. Ramesh says that now the number of days during which the rainfall is happening has come down, but the amount of rainfall during those days has increased significantly. There is also widespread debate over whether the Dubai rainfall was exacerbated by artificial cloud seeding. Now, this is a scientific methodology wherein the experts add some salt particles into the convective clouds through an aircraft in order to increase the amount of rainfall. Now, the UAE has been using this experiment for almost over a decade, and in order to increase the amount of rainfall. So we spoke to some experts who have been involved with cloud seeding experiments in India. Now, Professor Sachidanand Tripathi from the Department of Civil Engineering at IIT Kanpur says that it's highly unlikely that the current event was due to cloud seeding gone wrong. He says that this experiment is usually done to increase the amount of rainfall at a time when the storm has not really developed. But if the storm is well developed, then it's not recommended. Secondly, he points out that the global studies show that the cloud seeding experiments can increase the amount of rainfall by 15 to 25%. So in case of Dubai, the heavy rainfall event was anyways expected to happen even if the cloud seeding had not or been done. He also points out to the trends of global warming which are making these heavy rainfall events increase in intensity across the world. So the science is clear and the scientists are in unanimity over the rising impacts of climate change and global warming, due to which we are experiencing this extreme weather events across the world. I think the key is to make our urban infrastructure much more resilient to face these impacts of climate change which are rising in intensity and frequency across the world. Scientists have also pointed out that this warming atmosphere can hold moisture for a very long duration. It can sustain stronger, deeper clouds for a very long duration, and then suddenly it leads to a downpour. That's all for today. Thank you so much.
All right then, and Srishti is still with us to try and understand, a little more details on this front. So Srishti, how much of a heads up on this do scientists really have? Are these changing weather patterns, what you're talking about, things that will change not just in Dubai, more and more of them happening all over the world now? Do we have a heads up? Do we have an understanding on what will happen?
Right, Sonal. So what's happening in Dubai kind of gives a glimpse of what might happen in various other countries. Like we say, climate change has no specific address. So yes, scientists have been really working on forecasting these extreme weather events. Our forecasting skills have improved drastically. But the challenge here is that we are finding it extremely difficult to predict the intensity of these events. So like for example, in case of India, India has a long coastline. So the cyclones are, we can predict the, where they might make a landfall, but the way they are rapidly intensifying. And same goes with heat waves, which is another extreme weather event. And they are also lasting over a really long duration. So scientists are finding it difficult to do. And that is why the United Nations also has declared that all the countries across the world must have an early warning system in place to predict any kind of extreme weather event. It may be flood, it may be rainfall, it may be heat waves, or it may be cyclones.
Srishti, in the explainer you brought us a little earlier, you said that the key for the future is, apart from everything you've just told us in terms of preparing for weather events, in general as a society we need to build more infrastructure that's resilient across the country, across the world. And the one thing we hear about India again and again is that in the future it's going to get very, very hot. But what is building infrastructure for everyone? People on the streets right now, people indoors, what does that look like?
So this is an important conversation that is happening on the global scale as well. If you remember, in 2019, India had also announced this Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, CDRI, where it brought the countries together to discuss how we need to build a resilient infrastructure in wake of climate change events. Now, these once-in-a-century floods are going to be more frequent. Same goes with heat waves. So according to experts, it's important that we have a sustainable infrastructure, like we are talking about these extreme rainfall events. So where will this excess rainwater will go? We are kind of, the way we are paving every urban city, we have seen urban flooding happening in Chennai and Mumbai almost every year during the monsoons. So that is extremely important. For heat waves, we really need to ensure that we plant more and more trees to counter the urban island heat effect. And these are the conversations which also happened incidentally in Dubai last December, where, the country, when it hosted the United Nations Climate Change Summit. And overall, as all the governments have been urged to act on really countering the main reason for climate change, which is of course to reduce the rising emissions. But on the ground scale, yes, all the cities and the towns need to ensure that are they really prepared to prepare when excess rain happens, let's say during the monsoons, and we have the monsoons coming up in June. So let's see how we really prepare for that.
Okay. Yeah. Srishti, it's interesting you spoke about how Dubai did know this was coming. They perhaps, we don't know, made any preparations or not, but things are the way they are. Are there things that can be done, in terms of climate action, preparations that can be done, impact that can be made by, say, regular citizens and governments to ensure and deter it? We all know it's coming, to just sort of deter it as long as possible.
Definitely. I mean, the larger action needs to be taken by the governments, but on an individual level, we can take smaller actions. Let's see, do you have rainwater harvesting at your home? Are you planting enough trees? And what is your carbon footprint? Anything that you do really involves emissions. Can you bring that down on an individual level? So all of us collectively definitely can bring that down. And the governments have been also urging people to go for a sustainable way of living. Let's see the kind of home that you build. Does it have enough, ventilation so that you do not depend on the electricity appliances, which are also anyways, powered by fossil fuels, coal, gas and oil, which are actually the biggest culprits for climate change across the world.
Okay, so architectural changes we can make, but you're also saying, as an individual, we need to take responsibility. That seems to be your big message, Srishti. Thank you for that. The other thing you were telling us, and this is something we discussed on TBC, is that it's going to be a hot, hot summer for all of us across the entire country.
That's right. And let's go now to someone who's going in and doing a lot for India in the environment space. We are now joined by Arun Krishnamurthy. Arun started the Environmentalist Foundation of India back in 2011, and over the years his organization says that they have cleaned more than 150 lakes across the country.
That's such a huge number, and I think one of the big questions we were thinking about earlier is, what does it look like to actually build this kind of effort? We'll go over to Arun to understand that, just to know how conscientious are Indian citizens when you're actually trying to build something like this. Let's go over to him to understand more. Arun heads EFI, it's the Environmentalist Foundation of India.
Hi, morning Arun. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Breakfast Club. You work heavily with different communities across the country to restore our lakes, of course. Are there any learnings you want to share with us, or any aha moments, any particular communities you found who were really driven by the cause?
I'm always asked this question of where it is easy to work in India. I'll tell you, it's not religion, caste, language, gender, or anything that binds us as one country. Our ability to abuse water bodies the same way, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, Ladakh to Lakshadweep, Andamans to Arunachal, Gujarat to Manipur, it's actually the same. And the reason why I'm hopeful, in all these territory, everybody is so kind-hearted, and almost everybody wants to see the fish, crab, frog, snake, the tree, everything intact, and the water body to hold only fresh water, to drink water from that water body, and to swim in that water body is our wish. But unfortunately, we are the ones who are abusing it. And when you pitch the idea of let's revive it, let's clean it, almost everybody is out there in the field. The heat, the mobile phone, IPL, politics and movies are the heavy distraction which keeps us away from nature-based field work. The youth is very excited, but they should also think about not just desktop conservation, which is digitally, by liking, sharing, commenting, we're not going to be able to save the tiger or the lake. We have to be there out in the field. The older generation should also understand that it's not only the younger generation's responsibility. They are the ones who've ruined it. So it's a collaboration. Government, civic society, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jain, Sikh, whoever, man, woman, third gender, whether Tamil, Punjabi, Marathi, whoever, all of us have to come together in the name of India and her environment.
Can you tell us, Arun, you just spoke about governments, organizations, the bigger picture. Today, our TBC family, if we just asked you, what's one small easy step we can all change in our lives? We've talked about, for example, leaving plastic bags in the past. What's something today you tell us to start doing?
a huge, humble request: abandon balloons immediately. Whether it is birthday, anniversary, Teachers' Day, Christmas, Diwali, a new retail store opening, or anything, stop balloons. The number of sea turtles that were dead and washed ashore along the east coast of the country, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, and when you did autopsy in these turtles, almost 17 turtles of the many hundreds that were dead and washed ashore, 17 turtles choked on balloons because they thought it was jellyfish and then they
Good
died.
Lord.
Now, anybody who's watching the show can immediately accept and agree we can easily live without balloons. Why be murderers? Yes, like this, there are very small items like a balloon, plastic straw, plastic spoon, one time use and throw should definitely be out of our lives. And it's not a joke. See, nature conservation is no great deal. It's actually common sense, right? We can't sensationalize it, and all of us, it's a common responsibility. We have to realize it. Just because we walk straight and talk loud, we're not the superior species, and every small thing that we do impacts so many lives. So please say no to balloons is my biggest request through Network 18 to everybody who's celebrating Earth Day. This hypocritical namesake that I care about the planet is not going to help. Through this network, let's actually take a vow that we will stop using balloons.
That's a good one, Arun. I think that's a message that everybody can actually implement as well. But let's move on now, and on the Breakfast Club, we want to look at stories and with hope, with solution as well. So all this climate change data can be very sort of disappointing. Is there a positive message after your years of work that you have for our audiences, something to look forward to?
I very strongly believe in miracles. If this country still runs and this country is able to survive despite 1.4 billion people drawing every energy and resource from this land, it's simply because there is a spiritual guidance. It's the planet which is guiding us, right? We've been taught to worship the river, that tree, that snake, that bird, that ocean, to the hills. We've actually grown up in a culture which has taught us these significant lessons. In the last few decades, we've forgotten all of it. And just by being hopeful and participatory, see, miracles happen when there's an effort, is also something which I believe in. And there's no reason why we should give up, right? If you've been through the Indian education system, you'll definitely believe through the year, you can definitely not study. The last 2 days you study, you'll somehow crack the exam. And that's the hope with which I'm running. And the exam that we are trying to crack is a climate exam. And if we somehow put in that Indian brain and then the Indian effort, we are there. Jugaad is something which is in our genes. Why not do some jugaad for the planet is my request.
Okay, what a beautiful and fun, frankly, message to end on. Arun, thank you. Okay, so the theme of this World Earth Day is planet versus plastics. Sonal, if I asked you what you think the most common form of plastic pollution was, when I just say that, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Something that Arun also said, no? Straws, plastic, maybe fast fashion.
Right, I also thought those few things, and it turns out that actually cigarette butts are considered the most abundant form of plastic waste in the world. Experts say there are around 4.5 trillion individual cigarette butts that are polluting our entire planet.
And they can take 10 years to degrade, that's right. But an organization in Noida has now come up with a really fun, innovative solution. And they are turning these cigarette butts into soft toys. Hard to imagine? Well, Kuhina did a bit of a digging there.
Hello viewers, look at my outfit today. Cool, right? But would you believe me if I said that this entire outfit has been made from scratch with the help of this cigarette waste? Today, we are uncovering the incredible journey of turning discarded cigarette butts into usable fabric, even denim. Picture this, 4.5 trillion cigarette butts, the most common plastic pollution, litter our environment yearly. But wait, aren't cigarette butts made out of cotton or paper? In reality, cigarette butts primarily contain plastic, and an organization in Noida has, over the last few years, come up with an incredible method to recycle cigarette butts and literally redefine them. This is Code Effort. A few years ago, its co-founders developed a closed cycling process that takes cigarette butts and turns them into everything from mannequins to toys to even clothes.
Initiation was just towards recycling because there was no other recycler who was handling cigarette butts in India specifically at that time. So when we were sorted and we had the technology to recycle cigarette butts, then we made a complete business model where we first started with procurement. When we started, it was Delhi NCR, 3 cities in 2018. Currently, we have collection centers in more than 200 districts, plus a community of 2,500 plus rag pickers who are helping us in procurement.
Here's how it works. First, they collaborate with local rag pickers to collect cigarette waste. Then, using innovative organic chemicals, they transform the waste into valuable materials. The cigarette butts undergo treatment to extract harmful substances, then become different kinds of fabric. The organization says it has recycled more than 10 billion cigarette butts till date.
Daily collection, when we started, it was 10 grams per day. Now we have reached to 1500 kgs per day. So this has been the journey so far. This Earth Day is very special for us because on this Earth Day we will be launching an industry first sustainable denim made out of recycled cigarette butts in association with one of the leading and biggest fashion apparel brand.
Well, let's talk about the impact. It is huge because Code Effort is not just recycling waste but also creating a lot of job opportunities. They are empowering more than 100 rural women and employing more than 2,500 rag pickers across the nation.
All right then, so that's quite a cool story, and I want to get my hands on those jeans then that Kohina is on to. But sticking with our theme on Earth's Day today, today is also the day to give some gratitude to Mother Earth and a day to sort of reiterate our resolve to keep our planet clean and green. So here we've got a special message for you coming in all the way from Sadhguru. Take a look.
We are not just earthed, we are the earth, and the soil that we walk upon and the body that we carry are not different, the same thing. Saving the earth, saving soil is is fundamental to ensure that our own lives and the lives of future generations are ensured. Across the world, I'm seeing there are many individual people, a whole lot of people who are concerned about these things, but the important thing is to merge this into one big force so that the difference happens in action. In action, if real difference has to happen for the soil, for the earth, the most important thing is we must come up with the right kind of policies. Being democratic nations, it's very important that we move people in a big way and keep that up so that as governments change every few years, the same momentum and the same purpose and the same intent is kept up for long periods of time so that solutions are not just talked about, solutions are implemented. We should move towards policy changes which will ensure long-term well-being of the living soil that we walk upon. So I beseech every one of you, this is a commitment for life. If every one of us live and breathe these concerns, definitely as a generation we can make this difference. This is our time on the planet. We have to make sure that we don't pass away talking about problems, but we are a generation of solutions. Let's make it happen.